Hello, I am so glad that you are here joining me for this video. Today I'm going to talk to you about continuous glucose monitors, otherwise known as CGMs. A lot of people have asked me exactly how do I know if this information I'm receiving, if it's beneficial, if it's detrimental, am I doing this right? There's a lot of ins and outs to CGMs, so I thought I'd make this quick video reference for you and hopefully it helps you. If you know anybody else who can benefit from this, make sure you send it to them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Jen Winkler. I am a functional health and hormone coach. I help women who are suffering from imbalances with their hormone, PMS, PCOS, any of those kind of things. I also help women learn how to track their cycles, learn what their biomarkers are saying so that they know what is actually going on with their hormones internally. Now that you know who I am, let's get on with the show. Okay, one of the first things you need to know is that CGMs are not actually measuring your blood glucose. Is that a surprise for you? It's actually measuring your interstitial fluid, but the numbers between interstitial fluid and your blood glucose are typically really close. The CGM companies do allow for up to a 20% difference between blood glucose, like if you were to prick your finger and check it on a monitor or get it drawn at a lab, the difference between that one and what the CGM is measuring. Most of the time they're going to be similar, very, very close, but sometimes there is that slight fluctuation. Now, that being said, I normally don't recommend CGMs to know the exact number, and they don't either. They tell people who are type 2 diabetic, if your numbers get too low or too high, to actually measure the blood to make sure and to get a precise number, especially if you're dosing yourself with insulin. So that speaks volumes right there. What I do recommend CGMs for is the trends. So when you consume a particular food, to see how high does it spike, how long does it take to get back to baseline, meaning where it was before you ate, and are you getting hypoglycemic reactions? The other thing I would recommend is some people don't sleep very well and they keep waking up through the night. I recommend CGMs for them as well because you can see, is my blood sugar dipping too low that it's disturbing my sleep and waking me up? That's a mechanism within our body to make us survive so that if we need glucose in the moment, it wakes you up, go eat something. So that's another reason I would recommend for people to use them. The other reason is the obvious. If you are insulin resistant and you're trying to get metabolically healthy, you can use a CGM to see what foods are triggering the blood sugar spikes. They're not always going to be high carb foods. Sometimes they're low carb foods, sometimes they're fruits, sometimes they're particular ingredients. There's a whole host of things. So CGMs can be really helpful for various people. Why does my blood glucose fluctuate and what causes the highs and lows? So these are just some examples of what can cause the spikes and the lows. First and most obvious are refined carbohydrates. Really, any carb can do it, but specifically those breads, pastas, rice, junk food, donuts, all the things that we tend to go to so often, those will cause the highs. And then when your insulin gets released, it causes a dramatic dip, which then makes you need more to recover your blood glucose, and you get this up and down spike. The other aspect is just high glucose intake in general. So if you're having a lot of sugar, or even in the case of fruits, that will cause a blood sugar spike. Third reason would be stress. It doesn't have to be mental stress either. It can be maybe you just live a stressful life. You're a go-go person and your body feels that. So it will cause cortisol to rise, which once the cortisol rises, in return, the glucose rises to give you that immediate energy. The fourth one is high intensity workouts. Okay, I want you to think ancestrally. They weren't going to a gym lifting weights. They weren't running for like miles and miles. But when they were exerting a lot of energy, it was typically for their safety, right? It was typically like a bear is chasing them or they need to go get and hunt the food, things like that. So the body in turn will say, hey, you need some immediate energy. Glucose is immediate energy. Fat you have to burn and turn into energy. So in that case, that's what the body is thinking. You're on the treadmill running really hard. You're doing a HIIT workout. You're lifting the weights, whatever gets your heart pumping. It's going to spit out cortisol to get that immediate glucose. And that will cause a blood glucose spike on your CGM. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not necessarily because it's a good stressor. But there is nuance to that with everybody that I will not get into right now. The last one is lack of quality sleep. If you are not sleeping well, I read somewhere that if you sleep 1 hour less than what you should be sleeping, you are up to 40% more insulin resistant the next day. Mind blown. So lack of quality sleep, and I don't mean just the hours, I mean actual quality, will also cause insulin resistance, which then causes higher blood glucose. One of the ones I did not list here is blue light. So these lights that are surrounding me right now are signaling to my body to raise cortisol and suppress melatonin. So in that case, that can also raise your blood glucose and cause insulin resistance if you do it too much, or especially at the wrong time of day. Okay, so now what do I look for in the CGM data, Jen? I need to know that part. So there's two main things that you look for. One of them is how high the spike is going. A healthy response stays under 30 points. So if your blood glucose is at 80 and you eat your meal and it goes up to 110 but doesn't go any higher, that is a healthy spike, as long as it doesn't go any more. That's the first thing you look at. You want it to stay as steady as possible, but one spike a day, meaning under 30 points, is okay. Now, the other thing you look at is how long it takes to get to baseline. So again, if you were at 80 when you started and it went up to 110, how long does it take to get back to 80? Or approximately 80, 82, 83, 78, somewhere around that number, in that vicinity. How long does it take? You want it to be less than 2 hours. If it takes longer than 2 hours to get back to baseline, or if it gets more than 30 points, you know that food is not blood sugar friendly for yourself, okay? Now, one third thing to look at as well is, like this graph shows, there's a spike and then a crash. So let's say you have a spike of 30 points, it returns to baseline within an hour, but it goes even lower than your baseline. You are starting to have a hypoglycemic reaction and you are starting to crash. So just because it fulfills the first two, it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. If you're crashing, you're going to want to avoid that food as well. The fourth thing as well is maybe it does go back to 80, but then you have a subsequent spike again. That would also indicate something is not translating properly with your blood sugar and your insulin. That would be another thing to look for also. All right, I wanted to show you a few examples of what your CGM might look like. Okay, so let's look at this first one. We have somebody that's around the 50s, and granted, I know it may not be exactly in the 50s because of what I mentioned earlier, but for demonstration purposes, I will say these are accurate. So it's going up and down, up and down. You see at the time, it's in the morning. A person is probably waking up in the middle of the night. And therefore, you know, that's signaling to them they need to do some things in order, you know, take some actions to balance the blood sugar overnight. And then they must wake up here and they have a huge spike. That can happen when you have some cortisol issues. Naturally, you can have a normal wake up like this one. She's waking up here and it goes up. That is okay. That's just your cortisol waking you up, suppressing melatonin. It's called the dawn phenomenon, and it's completely normal and healthy. We just don't want it to go up this high, okay? Because then she gets that crash there, and then she has some breakfast, and it becomes this mountainous range of ups and downs. This is what makes people feel miserable. When you get the energy crashes, and you're exhausted, and you're cranky, and you get headaches, all those kind of things could be due to blood sugar fluctuations such as these. So this is what we don't want. This is what we want. We want this one where this gentle little spike, just a little bit, returning back to baseline, and then stays pretty steady. Maybe dinner time, they had a little bit of something, and it's a tiny thing. This is beautiful. This is what you want. You don't need it to be a flat line. You're not dead. You are active. You are human. You are alive. Your body is utilizing the glucose in your body, whether it's from external carbs or it's from gluconeogenesis. It's going to happen. Okay, so this is that type that we would want. One other thing I want to mention too, I'm going to use this one as an example, is if you are ever laying on your arm that has the CGM, you could get some false dips. So perhaps if this was a client that came to me, this would be one of the things I would ask is, what were the symptoms at night? Did you sleep through all these dips? Did you feel rested when you woke up? If so, my suspicion would be this is due to the person sleeping on their arm, and therefore gives a false low on the CGM. It doesn't always happen, but that's why we always have to take symptoms with the data. We don't do just symptoms, we don't do just data, we do both of them together. One of the other things about the CGM is it does take about 24 hours to calibrate. If after the 24 hours you measure your actual finger prick blood glucose and look at the CGM and it's more than 20% difference, wait another 12 to 24 hours just in case, check it again. And if it's still a drastic difference, you can always reach out to the CGM manufacturer and they will ask a few questions and send you out a replacement one for free. So please know that it's really important because these are not cheap devices. And if one of them gets messed up, you want to get your money worth. The other thing is if you bump your arm against a wall and it falls off, that's another way that you can get a replacement. Basically anything, if you don't get your 2 weeks full of CGM data, then you can reach out to the manufacturer company and ask them for a replacement. And I have definitely gotten a number of those, so I know it actually works and it's fairly easy. You may have a question now, Jen, how do I get a hold of these CGMs? I really want to use it. I want to see what foods are impacting my glucose. I feel like crap throughout the day. I have no energy. It fluctuates, etc. Well, I have good news for you. I am an affiliate with Theia Health, and they make it really easy for you to be able to get your hands on these CGMs. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what they do. So here's an example of when I was wearing my CGM a few months ago. They give you these scores according to actually what I believe. I can set the scores for people. So there's a score. This food that I ate this day was a score of 100, means a very blood sugar friendly meal. It gives all these data points for you. And what was your glucose after 75 minutes? And you can even get more detailed, meaning what was the baseline? Okay, the baseline right here was 98. It only went up to 102 and then it went down to 84. So whatever I ate here actually helped. This was my meal. It actually helped my blood glucose to go down more. So I had a burger, cheese, a fried egg on it, and an apple. I don't remember if it was a half or a whole. But also sometimes it'll give you the hours to stabilize if it's applicable. Like if this was a giant spike, how long did it take to get back to baseline? And you can record not only food, but you can record actual exercise, stress, things like that as well. So this is like the basic dashboard. Your chart will appear here. I obviously don't have one on right now. Your glucose is here and it's continually monitoring. So you don't have to scan your phone or anything like that. It's just always monitoring. I do suggest if you have the Libre 3 to shut off your Bluetooth at night. In case you do sleep on your arm, it will give a loud beep alerting you that your blood sugar is going too low. So if you don't want to wake up for those, shut off the Bluetooth. That's a big aspect as well. So Theia Health charges just a one-time fee for access to the prescription. They will write the prescription for you and mail out the CGMs to your house. They have a flat fee for 1, 3, or 6 CGMs. Actually, I don't believe they sell them in one. I think 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months. That's what it is. So you can always do that. And then if you want to work with me one-on-one, I get to see your chart and everything that's going on here, whatever foods you're recording, and I can help you with that from the practitioner point. So you don't have to screenshot anything or send it. I just see it on my end, and you can say, Jen, on Monday, I had this food for lunch, and this happened with my blood glucose, and I'm not really sure why that happened. Well, I can take a look and ask you some questions and figure out what it could have possibly been. So that's one thing I really love about Theia Health. So I hope this helps. I hope this presentation has been helpful for you. If it has been, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who you think may benefit from it. Comment below any questions or comments that you have, if you enjoyed it, etc. It helps the algorithm to push it out a little bit more. So yeah, if you have any questions and you want to work with me, feel free to email me, reach out to me on my website, and I'd be happy to help in any capacity. Have a good one, guys.